Hello all, Carrie here. Today I have a new layout with a simple embroidery border. The supplies I'm going to be using is baker's twine instead of embroidery thread, some Recollections enamel dots, some My Mind's Eye enamel dots, some K& Company butterflies, a photo, some Lily Bee Design alpha stickers, and some Dear Lizzy polka dot party paper. I use that little blue and white stripe paper, that triangle paper, and then I find a floral paper here to use as my background. And they're all just based on colors that I like right now and that I thought went really well with my photo. So that's the paper that I'm going to be using. I also used a Project Life card from the Becky Higgins Sunshine Core Kit. And the first thing I'm going to do is trim down my 12 by 12 sheet of paper to 8.5 by 11. And that's because I needed a rectangular layout for this spread. That's the way that I envisioned the design going. So what I'm going to do first is grab my main pieces that I'm going to be using for my layout. I have my photo, which is 4 by 6, and then I have my 3 by 4 piece from the Project Life, and then I'm cutting down this 4 by 6 sheet from the Dear Lizzy polka dot party paper pack, and it's from one of the cut apart sheets. And I just trimmed it down to 3 by 4 and then rounded the corners. So I have 2 3 by 4s and 1 4 by 6, and that's the main idea for this spread. It's the main layout. Next, I'm just taking that triangular paper, the paper with all the triangles, and I'm cutting out 2 of the mint and 3 of the off-white. It has kind of a little bit of a rose color to it. And then I'm going to take my enamel dots and add them to the bottom 3 by 4 card. I used my favorite adhesive, which is the Ultimate Glue, just because I wanted to make sure that these enamel dots didn't come off inside the page protector. I just wanted them to last a little bit longer. So I used 3 different sizes in the yellow gold color, and then 2 different sizes in the white, and then 2 different sizes in the black, but I'm using 3 of the black total. And I just decided to put them where the little design met on the 3 by 4 card. Next, I'm taking my triangle pieces, and I'm using the rose colored, I say rose, it's a very light off-white colored triangle piece, and then the 2 mint pieces I turned upside down because I wanted to add white in there. So next I'm going to go ahead and add my title with the Lily Bee Alpha stickers. I'm running low on some of the vowels, so I ended up using a dark blue for, I think, that E, and then I believe I also end up using a dark blue for another one of the U's. Yeah, for that U there. And this glued to you saying is actually on one of the cut apart sheets in the Dear Lizzy paper pack, and I really liked it and I wanted to use it, but it wasn't the right color. So I figured I would just make my own title. And next I'm going to take my butterfly stickers and find the one that I think looks the best. And I think I like that one. I feel like the colors all kind of flow nicely around the page now. And next I'm going to take my triangle pieces, and I'm just going to kind of haphazardly glue them down like in different places along the bottom of the 3 by 4 and 4 by 6, just so that there's some movement across the bottom of the page. And I wanted to add a little bit of a neutral in with the white and the off-white color. And the trick with this is I wanted it to look really clean, so I trimmed the edge of the triangles off, and the only one that I'm reattaching is the one in between the 3x4 and 4x6, because I just feel like it flows a little bit better that way. But the reason that I trimmed that off is because I just wanted a little bit more of a finished look, because I am going to be doing an embroidery border around the edge of my spread here, just to add some extra texture. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these down, and again, I'm using the Ultimate Glue, just because of the fact that I want everything to, like I said, to stay down really well. And I'm only using the glue kind of mostly in the middle, because I want to be able to kind of curl the edges up a little bit, just to add a little bit of depth and texture. It's a personal preference. I like the way that looks. So I think that is pretty much the base of my layout. So I'm going to start adhering it down. I'm using my tape runner in the center, and then I'm just going to use a little bit of my Ultimate Glue on the top and bottom edges. And again, that's just for extra security. Now you're going to see here that I have a little bit of trouble figuring out how to line these up, and it's mostly just because the 4x6 is just a tiny bit smaller than the two 3x4 cards, because I am keeping a little bit of a space in between, and I'm trying to get over being as much of a perfectionist, but it just has to look, you know, somewhat visually pleasing to me. So I'm kind of fussing with it there, and I finally decided I like the way that looks. So next I'm going to use my sewing machine, and I took a piece of scrap paper so that I could test out the length of the stitches, and that's the shortest length. That's the length that it comes with, which is 2.5, and that next one I believe is the longest length, which is 5. And I'm going to go ahead and use my sewing machine to create the actual holes for doing the embroidery. And I just found that this is so much faster than doing it by hand. I mean, it takes less than a minute, whereas if you do it by hand, it'll take many minutes. The only thing is I'm not very good at doing rounded corners with my sewing machine. So I'm only doing the sides and leaving the corners, and I'm going to go ahead and do the corners by hand, make the holes for the corners by hand with my embroidery needle. And you'll see here, I'm going to zoom in, and you can see those stitches, or the holes at the bottom for doing the embroidery. And then here I am creating holes around the corners because I want a nice, smooth, rounded edge. I don't want it to look choppy. So I'm giving myself about 1/4 of an inch space in between around the edges. And for the length of the embroidery thread I ended up using, what I did to measure, and it ended up being fairly accurate, was I took the length of the 3x4 plus the 4x6 and then the space in between, and I just multiplied that by 6. And that's because with the back stitching you end up using more than just a single row of thread. So that's why you end up needing a little bit more than you would originally. At least I ended up back stitching, so that's why I ended up having the length be 6 instead of 4. But to start off, all I did was come through the back side, tape it down, and then as you can see, I'm skipping every other hole. And that's just because I want my stitch length to be longer. If I'd kept it the longest length that my sewing machine allows, which is the 5, it would have taken me twice as long to hand stitch this border around the edge. So I'm skipping every other one, and then for back stitching, you can see I'm just going back, filling in the blanks, and then coming back up through the same hole where I left off. So I'll show you a picture here in a minute of what it looks like finished from the front and the back. So just continuing on with stitching every other one all the way around, and then here I am just fast forwarding the process, and again, it's just a personal preference for me. I like it when you can kind of see everything rather than just skipping to the end. So I mean, I'm not the best at doing hand embroidery, so having, you know, such a long thread, I definitely mess up and get knots where I'm not supposed to and such, and it's definitely not perfect, but I am fairly pleased with the final result. So I slowed it down here again because going around the corner, instead of skipping every other hole, you want to make sure to not skip any holes. And that's if you want a smooth corner, which I wanted my corners to be nice and smooth. If I'd skipped every other hole, then it would have been kind of choppy, kind of more boxy looking. And so it's just the way that I'd planned on having it look. So there you can see what it looks like around the corner, and then now you can see I went back to, since I'm just going straight again, I went back to skipping to every other hole all the way around. Now with the baker's twine, it's a little bit thicker than using regular embroidery thread, and I like using both. But I do really like using the baker's twine when I think it's a good fit, because I like the fact that it's two-toned and has that cute little stripe, and it just adds in an extra little bit of fun and an extra little bit of color. And I just use a regular size embroidery needle, and it seems to thread just fine. I don't really ever seem to have any major issues with threading it, even though it's a little thicker. So here I am, going around a corner again. The other thing that I wanted to mention is this layout is much more simple than layouts that I would typically do, and it's partially because I just wanted to get something done fast, but also because I was kind of intrigued with the idea of using a grid design with Project Life, with the Project Life cards. You know, because as most of us have lots of Project Life cards, it's nice to have extra uses for them. So you can see, to end it off here, I'm just doing the same thing at the beginning where I'm using some tape to hold it down once it's all done, and that is what the final layout looks like. Now this is actually somewhat of a duplicate of one that I had done the day before, but it was at night and I kind of was just trying out something new, and so I hadn't filmed it, but I'm going to show it to you here in a minute. This is what my original one looked like, and that's what the back looks like for both. And you can see in the original that the stitch lengths are quite a bit shorter, and so it took me probably twice as long to stitch all the way around. But I really like the fact that this layout has extra depth and texture from doing the hand stitching, even though it's extremely simple. And I like the fact that it's something fun that you can do. That's kind of a no-brainer thing when you want to just relax, but yet still do something creative. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye.